Welcome to the channel, Setting the Stage. Today's video is called The Illuminati and the New World Order. If you like this sort of content, please subscribe. And first of all, I would like to review this slide that we've seen in the Illuminati and Satanism video, but it really sets the stage for the rest of this presentation. And it says, "The fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and should devour the whole earth." And that's from Daniel 7. And that's a prophecy of a one world government. And then it says, "The devil showed Jesus all the kingdoms of the world. And the devil said to him, 'This authority has been delivered to me.'" And this shows the principle of the devil being in control of the kingdoms of the world. So a satanic globalism is prophesied in the Bible. And then next to that, we see a picture of 4th Baron Lord Jacob Rothschild and David Rockefeller. And we looked at the Rothschild's connections to the Illuminati in the Illuminati history video, and then also the Rothschild's connections to central banking and central banking's connections to global government through the World Bank and IMF. And then we see David Rockefeller, and we looked at David Rockefeller's connections to banking as well as their connections to the UN and global government, especially in the Illuminati and the Establishment video. And then we seen how these guys were connected in starting the Federal Reserve System, the central bank of the United States. And then again, we see this quote that says, "Weishaupt had long been scheming the establishment of an association or order which in time should govern the world." And so giving the connections between the Illuminati and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and their connections to global government, we see them carrying on the legacy of satanic globalism for the Illuminati. And then we saw how this UN flag was associated to the Freemasonic Phoenix symbol, order out of chaos, and how that represented satanic globalism in the Illuminati and Satanism video. And then to look at the order out of chaos symbol a little more, it means order out of chaos is a Freemasonic philosophy. It is also known as the Hegelian dialectic, which is thesis plus antithesis equals synthesis. And to think about that in building a world government, if you want a one world government, then you would use world conflict to pursue the world government. And as examples of that, we would look at the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars leading to the Congress of Vienna, which is a predecessor of the EU. And then also, we would see how the banking crisis of 1907 would lead to the Federal Reserve System, how World War I and led to the League of Nations, how the Great Depression led to the Bretton Woods International Monetary System, and that system pegged the world currencies to the US dollar, making it the currency of the globe. And then how World War II led to the UN, IMF, World Bank, World Trade Organization, and the EU. How 9/11 led to surveillance police state, the enforcement arm of the banking industry. How the housing crisis led to banking fascism and an expansion of debt, which will lead to a future bigger debt crisis. And then to look at this symbol that we've seen from the Great Seal on the back of the US dollar, it not only has the Freemasonic all-seeing eye on it, but above that it has the Latin phrase "Annuit Coeptus," and below that the Latin phrase "Novus Ordo Seclorum." Annuit Coeptus means "bless our undertaking," and Novus Ordo Seclorum means "New World Order." Some people say it means "New Order of the Ages," but it does actually mean New World Order. So it says, bless our undertaking, New World Order. On the other side, we see it says, e pluribus unum in Latin, which means out of many one. Many people think that means out of many states one nation, but since they're talking about the New World Order, it could mean out of many nations one world. And now some quotes that show how these events were manipulated that led to all these order out of chaos achievements. It says, the banking crisis of 1907 led to the Federal Reserve Central Bank. And it says, the king bankers put in motion in 1907 a great scheme. They had gambled and speculated on Wall Street until so many watered stocks and bonds had been manufactured. The king bankers knew the condition and informed the favored of their friends what was to come. There was to be a panic in the fall of 1907 that would be advertised as the result of our bad banking and currency laws. And that's from Congressman Charles Lindbergh. And then that would be used as justification to start the Federal Reserve System. World War I, the sinking of Lusitania led the U.S. into World War I, which led to the League of Nations. And here we see the U.S. representative, English representative Gray, asking, what will America do if Germans sink an ocean liner with American passengers on board? And then House, the American representative, says, I believe that a flame of indignation would sweep the United States, and that by itself would be sufficient to carry us into the war. And they said this prior to the sinking of Lusitania, clearly planning it. The Great Depression. The Federal Reserve System led to the Great Depression, which led to socialism. And we know socialism's connections to the Illuminati from the Illuminati in Politics video. And Charles Lindbergh again says, under the Federal Reserve Act, panics are scientifically created. The present panic is the first scientifically created one, worked out as we figure a mathematical equation, talking about the Great Depression. World War II, Pearl Harbor led the U.S. into World War II, which led to the UN, IMF, World Bank, and EU. And here we see Henry Stimson, the Secretary of War, saying, the question was how we should maneuver them into firing the first shot. It was desirable to make sure that the Japanese be the ones to do this, so that there should remain no doubt as to who were the aggressors. And then Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was a Freemason, says, though claiming neutrality publicly, FDR halted trade, froze Japanese assets, and aided Japan's enemies against the war rules, leading to Pearl Harbor. And now 9/11 truth. It says, demolition theory proponents such as Brigham Young University physicist Stephen Jones and architect Richard Gage, software engineer Jim Hoffman, and theologian David Ray Griffin argue that the aircraft impacts and resulting fires could not have weakened the building sufficiently to initiate a catastrophic collapse, and that the buildings would not have collapsed completely nor at the speeds that they did without additional factors weakening the structures. In the article, Active Thermotic Material Discovered in Dust from the 9/11 World Trade Center Catastrophe, which appeared in the Open Chemical Physics Journal, Stephen Jones and others state that thermite and nanothermite composites in the dust and debris were found following the collapse of the three buildings, which they conclude to be proof that explosives brought down the buildings. Molten steel found in the rubble was evidence of explosives, as an ordinary airplane fire would not generate enough heat to produce this, citing photographs of red debris removed by construction equipment. The thing that makes Building 7 different is that it is the only building to fall on 9/11 that did not get hit by a plane. Therefore, it is the only commercial steel frame building ever to fall from fires alone, even though many steel frame buildings have burned hotter and longer without ever collapsing. And this is the smoking gun in the case that architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth make against the official version of the collapse of the World Trade Building 7. And here we see the fires from World Trade Center 7, which was not hit by a plane and was brought down by fires alone. These are the fires that led to the collapse. And then we see examples of other buildings that burned hotter or longer that did not collapse. And this is the Mandarin Orient Hotel in Beijing, China. And it burned for 6 hours, but the entire building was engulfed in flames. And it is still in use today. The Windsor Building, Madrid, Spain, burned for 24 hours with the entire building engulfed in flames. And it still stands today and is in use. Architectures and Engineers for 9/11 Truth is a nonprofit organization of architects, engineers, and affiliates dedicated to establishing the truth about the events of September 11th, 2001. Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth have a website at ae911truth.org where they have a lot of resources. They have a documentary video that gives a compelling introduction into the case against 9/11 being caused by terrorists. AE 9/11 Truth disputes the official version of the story as described by the 9/11 Commission and NIST government reports. And 9/11 led to the One World Trade Center, which is symbolic, the two leading to one, and Freemasonic philosophy believes in dualism leading to synthesis. And then we also saw the buildup of the global surveillance police state, the military police state, the strengthening of the enforcement arm of the banking industry in the New World Order, and banking and the mark of the beast. In Revelation 13, we see the prophecy of the mark of the beast, and to basically summarize what that is the mark of the beast is a cashless marked currency that is a global currency, and it uses numbers to ID people. Okay, and then we see how the UN led to the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, really setting up the global currency system. We see how the UPC uses a 666 ID number. If you look at a UPC barcode and you notice the long bars on the middle outside and the outside edges, those represent sixes, and that is the number that prepares the reader to read an ID number. So it'll read a 666 number, and then it knows the next number it reads is an ID number. And then when it sees another 666 number, it gets ready to read the next ID number. So we could see how everyone could get a 666 ID number. And we see how the chip was implanted into the smart card and how chips can be implanted into people. And so we see how the fulfillment of this prophecy is unfolding through all these organizations. And not only is the mark of the beast prophesied in the Bible, but immortality is as well. The serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die." And then also in Revelation 13, right before the mark of the beast, it says, "I saw one of its heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast, and they worshiped the dragon." So there will be a seeming victory of humanity over death. And this is often depicted as a merging of man and machine in the media. And then also there is the prophecy of the image of the beast, as well as the mark of the beast. And it says, "He told those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed." And we can see this as a possible allusion to AI, artificial intelligence. And again, we see the transhumanism movement, that is proponents of immortality for humanity, and their push to merge man with machine and AI for immortality. If you've liked this presentation, please look forward to future presentations in this series. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.